Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Sam. I am the Health Education Project Specialist at the Maxwell and Eleanor Blum Patient Family Learning Center at Mass General. Today's program is part of our Well-Being Series. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few items with you all. Please note that today's session is being recorded for educational purposes. If you're interested in viewing the recording, it'll be made available on the Blum Center website at massgeneral.org/Blum-Center. Please note that you're in listen-only mode. Everyone has been muted so you can hear our guest speaker today. If you have any questions, thoughts, reflections you'd like to share in the chat, feel free to do so in the chat, which is located at the bottom of your screen. Only Blum Center staff and our guest speaker will see your questions and comments. Please do not share any personal medical information or questions in the chat. If you have a personal medical question, please ask your doctor. Lastly, at the end of today's session, you'll be directed to a brief survey, which we'd like to ask you to help us complete. Your feedback is important to us as we plan future programs. Okay, so next I would like to introduce you all. Joining us today, we have Carmen Alvarez. In addition to her role with the Department of Radiology as a Program Director of Faculty Affairs and Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Carmen is also a well-being teacher and coach. As a certified workforce mindfulness facilitator, she integrates mindfulness and well-being to provide a comprehensive and integrated wellness approach. Carmen is also a certified Reiki master and has served as a Reiki therapist at Mass General Hospital and Brigham Women's Hospital in Boston since 2018. She is a graduate of the Mindful Leader Workplace Mindfulness Facilitator Program and the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine PARC Certificate Program, which stands for Positivity and Relaxation Response Training. She started her mindfulness training journey at Brown University School of Public Health's MBSR, which stands for Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. Carmen is also a certified Sky Wellness Coach offered by the International Association for Human Values, which is a comprehensive psychosocial program tailored for university students, faculty, and staff. She teaches meditation and breathwork workshops across the United States and Latin America in both English and Spanish. In recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, she joins us today to lead a session on the connection between our breath and our emotions. So please join me in welcoming Carmen.
Thank you, Amy, so much for that lovely introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It is lovely to see so many of you join us to address this topic. I guess it really struck a chord with many of you, and it makes sense, and perhaps it awoken some curiosity, in regards to what does our breath have to do with our emotion. I have to say that when I first heard that myself, I was very intrigued. So that is the point of today. We will be exploring that together. And speaking of together, this discussion is definitely made infinitely better when it does feel interactive. And I know that it is difficult because we're using Zoom, but I'd like to encourage you as much as possible to participate by putting in a comment, putting in an emotion, anything that you can think of, so that it does feel that we are in an interaction. I do want this to feel very somewhat personal and intimate of a discussion, and it is something that I'd like for us to explore together. So what does this have to do? The connection between our breath and our emotion. I'd like to start by inviting you to observe your mind. The first question is, before we embark in this, is what is stress? In your mind, what is stress? What are you thinking about right now? Just observe the mind. Perhaps you were thinking about what you have to do right after this, Perhaps you're multitasking as we're doing this, right? Perhaps you're thinking about something. Yeah, so thank you so much. Right here it says my work, my family, life balance. Wow. Busy mind. All of that is happening at the same time. That's a great point. Perhaps it's happening all at the same time. Another invitation, observe. As you observe, think about what you're thinking about. Does it have to do about something that is due right now? Or is it something that is due later today? Or perhaps are you worried about something that's already happened? Again, it's an observation. What was this related? What is most present to you right now? And the reason I bring this up is because if we observe our mind and we were to take down a list and write down what's in your mind, the thoughts that pop in, we would observe the following. Most of our thoughts have something to do with either something that's already happened, so it's something in the past, or something that hasn't happened yet. So something that's due later today, something that's due tomorrow. I'm worried about my income, my house, my career, my next job, my next anything. So in the future. I have a comment here. Oh, it's from Amy. Thank you, Amy. Um, so it's either something in the past or is something in the future that hasn't happened yet. And you see, it's actually the back and forth between something that happened in the past, something that happened in the future. This back and forth and this vacillation, that's actually what's creating the stress. And we'll explore today why that is, right? Because it's this vacillation between this two states of mind, the back and forth, that automatically creates a sensation of stress. But why is that? Let's explore that. If our mind is constantly in the back and forth between something in the past and something in the present, or something in the future rather, then what is the only thing that is happening right now? Here and now. Let's explore this. Only your breath, right? Only the breath that you're taking in this instant is happening right now in this very moment. Can you breathe a little bit more today for tomorrow? Right? Can you say, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to be really busy, so let me get in a lot of breathing in so that I can save that for tomorrow. I don't think so. Or did you wake up today and say, you know what? I had enough breathing yesterday, so I don't have to breathe today. No. So we're constantly breathing automatically. We don't have to think about this. This is automatically happening for us. And it's offered in every moment, so that every breath you take, that is the instinct. It is the now. This is why the breath served as the most perfect anchor. In mindfulness practice, when we invite you to use breath as an anchor, we do so because we know it is the one thing that will constantly bring you back to the moment, to the now moment, because it is happening now. It's not happening yesterday or later. Every breath is an invitation to be here. Every breath is new. Every breath is now. Does that make sense to everyone? It brings a nice appreciation as well for the fact that it serves as that anchor to us. But the breath is more than just a good anchor and a reminder that we are here right now. What else can the breath offer to us? Observe your breath right now. if you will. How are you breathing? Right before I invited you to observe it, how was your breath? Or maybe think about how you've been breathing today, the last couple of hours, the last couple of days. Perhaps you don't always think about the quality of your breath and the differences. So I invite you now to think back, how is my breath right now? Or how has it been the last couple of hours, the last couple of days? Are you breathing shallow? Are you taking deep breaths? Unless you are intentional and you already have a mindfulness practice, most likely your breath has been shallow. And the reason for this is that most of us breathe from the chest without knowing so. Before I started this journey in studying mindfulness, I didn't realize that I was breathing very shallow all the time. I was breathing from the chest. And I thought I was breathing and that was normal. I thought everyone did it that way. If you think about it, we're not often in a class to learn how to breathe, right? We think that we take it for granted that we're breathing. However, there are very different ways that we can breathe. And breathing from the chest, doing so, it's a shallow breath. That's not the ideal at all. And the reason for that is that when your breath is shallow, it sends a signal to the brain that not all is well, that you are stressed. Why would that be? We'll explore that a little bit. But just know that there is an automatic response in your brain that is related to how the brain is perceiving your breath. You're sending signals to your physical body and to the brain, and also psychological, that link it all together to equate that not all is well if I'm breathing so shallow. On the other hand, when you breathe, when your breath is more expansive and more open, you're breathing from the abdomen, not only are you getting more breath, right? More oxygen, but you send the opposite signal to the brain. The other thing that's amazing about this, about the breath and how we can utilize it, is that the breath eliminates 80% of the toxins in the body. 80%. Can you imagine? Who else here wants to embark in some sort of detox, right? Who else has thought about, if you're doing so, thinking about doing fasting or doing a juice cleanse or something else? And yet, the easiest thing we could do, we're already doing it. Mindful breath eliminates 80% of the toxins in your body. In fact, most of the times we're only using 5% of our lungs capacity. 5%. Our lungs can do so much more. They are intended to do so much more. So how can we capitalize in this amazing system that is built in, that is here for us? Let's explore that a little bit more. Anything shocking about what we've just said? If you have found it interesting or shocking, please let me know which pieces. Most people are typically shocked to learn about the 80% detox capacity of the breath. Right, so now let's explore something else. think about these images that you're looking at right now. Each of them is meant to represent an emotion. So imagine yourself as well in different stages or different circumstances and different times in your life when you've either been sad, happy, angry, right? Hopeful or depressed. How is your breath in those moments? We breathe when we are sad. Thoughts on that? Can someone comment in? If you can think about when you have been sad or if you've observed someone who is sad or depressed, how is their breath? If you can put that in the chat. It is typically very, very slow. It's barely there. It just automatically very, nearly there, very soft and slow. In comparison, how is your breath when you are happy? Like these two ladies here in the picture, an example of being happy. How is the breath when you're happy? Think about it when you get good news, when you just are having a good day. I don't know, something happy. It's your birthday, or you have a celebration, or you just got engaged, or you just anything. How is that? Or you feel that you're in love. How is your breath in those moments? It is automatically expansive. You can see the lady here, she is standing this way. I thought it was a very good photo to represent how we breathe when we feel happy. It exemplifies expansion. You're taking in, your lungs are open. You take in so much more oxygen, right? You feel hopeful. You ever think about that saying of you're flying on air or you're in the clouds? I don't know that saying that signifies when you're in love or you're just really elated about something. Well, I think it's connected to the fact that when we are happy, we're taking in so much more energy. We're breathing in an expansive way. We really do feel like we're floating, right? We feel lighter. In contrast, when we are sad and we're barely breathing, everything feels heavier and a lot more dense. Exploring other emotions when we are angry. How is that breath when we are angry? Have you ever noticed? The only thing I could find was this little bee, but he is doing a good job of representing anger. Have you ever seen someone very angry? What do they look like? I always think about this cartoons from some years past when they represent someone who comes in and is very angry and they have expanded nostrils. The nostrils are much bigger, right? Maybe they're crunching their teeth like this, like the little bee is. And then they have this sort of the air coming out of the nostrils representing forceful breathing that is fast and forceful, right? Happens automatically when you're angry. So what are we seeing here when we relate emotions and what happens to the breath? Is that you cannot decouple them. They are meant to sort of work in sync. It happens automatically. Our body knows to match the emotion with how you're breathing. It also does the opposite. It's reading how you're breathing. to come to a conclusion on how you must be feeling. And this is all happening automatically all the time. All the time. You don't have to think about it. It happens automatically. And most of this is unconscious. So we're not automatically thinking about this. But bringing awareness to this, just this alone, is really key. Really, really key to understanding the connection between the two and what we can do about it. When you're feeling calm, your nervous system is in a relaxed state and your breath becomes slower automatically. On the other hand, emotions like fear and anxiety can cause shortness of breath. Right? We know this already. You've seen this. And that is your body's flight, fight, or freeze response in action. Again, it's happening automatically. At the last session, we went in depth discussing the nervous system and how it works. That is this response that we are discussing. We didn't get into the emotion relation. That's why we're doing this other part here today. When you breathe normally, the body maintains a healthy balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? We know this. However, when you start to feel anxious, we may breathe too much or too little, right? So breathing too much happens when you're very anxious. Have you ever noticed when you're really, really anxious about having to do too many things, or even feeling so much anxiety that you feel like you're going into panic mode? You're breathing very fast. So that brings it creates also the opposite effect. So it creates panic. So when you're feeling anxious, we may breathe too much or too little, and this balance gets out of whack between the two. So when we breathe too much, also, this is also known as hyperventilating. Less oxygen actually is making its way to the brain. And so we experience a very unpleasant sensation, including feeling dizzy, lightheaded. Also, our heart rate increases, of course. So we also may experience tingling sensations and blurred vision. This is all could be describing a panic attack. This is all the physical response to how you're breathing. So which is first, right? Was it the emotion of feeling anxious first, or was it the breath? So as you can see, it creates a cycle, and it's a response that is connected. So it's both. The body is trying to read how you're feeling based on how you're breathing, right? And then it's alerting the nervous system to respond in accordance to what it's reading, which can in fact then create a response, a stress response, kicks into place. And then the more stress you feel, the more this breathing pattern continues, and so on, and so on, and so on. So your emotions are closely linked to your physiological, the body state, including your heart rate, your blood pressure, and how you breathe. But also, what happens when these thoughts are related to unpleasant events? Think about the thoughts that create these reactions. Perhaps you're lucky and all of your thoughts are very happy thoughts all the time, not anxious. But if you're not, if you are like the rest of us, most of us, you have some stressful thoughts and perhaps some sad ones as well. So think about what is happening to the physiological response as these thoughts come through the mind. relating back to when we started the conversation at the very beginning, when I invited you to observe your breath at the moment, I didn't ask necessarily for you to observe the thoughts, but simply your breath. But now we see the relationship between all of it. If you were breathing shallow at that moment, or very barely there, perhaps you were thinking about something that was giving you sensations of sadness. Perhaps the thought that was coming through is something that happened in the past, something that you cannot affect, perhaps related to grief, a sad situation. Perhaps you were thinking about something that hasn't happened yet, that gives you anxiety, that makes you feel anxious, frustrated. So you observe the breath, and then you observe the mind, and you see the relationship between those two. So again, the invitation is to bring awareness as a first step to regulating your emotions by observing the breath and understanding the capacity, the great capacity that we have to regulate those two, regulate our emotions and our response to stress through the breath. Questions on that? So I'm going to move us to the next part here. So continuing on to fully explore, how are emotion and breath related? So we were just discussing now, when you're angry or anxious or distressed for any reason, experiencing an unpleasant emotion, what is happening to your breath into your body? How is your breath changing? This is the invitation, is to observe this. Observe the tension in your muscles. What do you notice? The stress hormones, the nervous system response releases the stress hormones. Also, your digestion. This is no secret, right? That our digestion is also affected by the emotions and what may be happening in the mind, but it is all interlinked with the nervous system and the stress response. It affects all of the organs. It's not just your heart. It's also linked to your digestive system. Your eyes, how they are dilated. So this is this is key. Think about it. Your eyes dilate in a specific way, depending on your emotion. And that is our window. This is how we observe everything. So when they dilate, you start to perceive your reality in different ways as well, depending on how you're feeling. This is all related to the nervous system, and again, happening completely while you are unaware. So I also wanted to discuss the social impact of all of this, the social impact of your breath. So your breathing is not only affecting yourself, the body, your emotions, your brain. It's not just you. Think about how it is affecting those around you, particularly children. I'm sure if you have children, you've observed this as well. They are very, very observant. Children perceive, sometimes they are so observant, actually, they understand your state, your emotional state before you do. And how are they doing that? They're doing so because they're following the same signals. They're observing how you're breathing. Obviously, perhaps also they are reacting to things, they are actions and things you're saying, but most of the times, if they observe you in silence, they're just observing physical cues. So how you're breathing alone can affect the message that we send children or others around us. So notice how your breath, they'll start to match yours. Children, where they're next to you, if you're really nervous and you're breathing very, very fast, they may start to breathe the same automatically, almost just without thinking. They're observing, they're taking that in. They start to feel nervous as well. So let's be mindful about this. We want to do the opposite, and we want children to feel, rather than stress, we want them to also learn this amazing relation between your breath and your emotion and that response. So we want to teach this to our children so that they feel empowered to learn that they can also regulate their emotional state, or at least their response to stress, through their breath. And that's what we're going to learn about today. Great. I saw that the center used this in the media they use for this course, so I really liked it. I am using it. Thanks, Amy, for including this. Here it says our breath serves as a bridge between our conscious and unconscious mind, influencing our emotional states through its rhythm and the depth. This is exactly right. So that's really key to note, is that everything that we are discussing here today includes both what is conscious and what you're aware of, but also what you are unaware of. The breath has the capacity to, even if you're not aware of an emotion, the breath will match the emotion of which you're not aware. So it's amazing. It's a key. It's a window into your true emotions. Think about the power that comes from this awareness now. Think about this. Your breath will start matching the emotion, even if you're not aware of it. Therefore, a mindful breath work and meditation practice helps us develop the capacity to incrementally reduce stress. You also get better sleep. We get more focus, right? And improved mood, obviously. And also a sense of connection, a connection to yourself. It creates this connection with your understanding your own system, your own emotion, your own capacity to handle stress. All of this happens through the introduction of mindful and intentional breath work, where you are observing, which is what we're doing today. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like for us to go into a few examples of what mindful breath can look like. And please, if you have any questions about any of this or comments, I would like for you to put them in the chat, and Amy can help us make sure that we're reading those comments. By the way, I just wanted to mention that the comments only come to myself and Amy. The rest cannot see your comments, so please feel free to put that in the chat. Just wanted to offer that. So the first practice that I'd like to introduce is called box breathing. And as the name suggests, what this practice invites you to do is to breathe as if you were breathing following a box direction, and is a box has 4 sides, and this breath invites you to sort of follow this in 4. Now, sometimes box breathing can be stressful to some folks. So I just want to pause here to say that with any of these practices, we're offering a little bit of a framework to just help you be more aware of the breath and be more intentional about the breath. However, it's not a forced practice. So please breathe normally while we're going through this and breathe to your own capacity. So earlier I said that these practices help you incrementally increase your capacity. And so that is really meant to speak to the fact that everyone will have a different capacity when you first start, depending on how you have been accustomed to breathing. If your breath has always been shallow for whatever reason, that's just how you breathe, then your lungs will be accustomed to that. And so for you to go from that your whole entire life to welcoming in deep breaths, that could be stressful. So you don't want to go beyond your own body's capacity. You want to be gentle and you want to listen to your body when you do these. In the box breath, what you're asked to do is to inhale through the nose first and count to 4. Again, this is suggested. For some people, 4 counts may be too much. So if you don't have the capacity right now to hold your breath to a count of 4, then do less. But the invitation is to just do 4 at first. Hold for 4 while your lungs are full of air, your count. Hold the air in your lungs for that count, and then exhale through the mouth for 4 fully. And in the out breath is not a forceful breath. Sometimes we do this and I see people say going like it's forceful. No, the invitation is to allow the exhale to happen naturally. So you're not forcing it. It's not a forceful, it's just allowing the exhale. And so you'll notice if you do that, then it may be easier to go all the way up to 4 counts. If you force it, then you won't have, sometimes people tell me I have no air left by the time I get to 3. How come? Well, maybe you're letting it out too quickly. And the invitation is to allow it to slowly exit, if you will. Right, so we want to just do this repeatedly and just do a few counts. What you will see that happens with this practice is that it is incredible. Even as quickly as 4 counts in, you'll notice the incredible impact that it has, the capacity that it has to bring you to the present moment, obviously, but also to decrease your anxiety, to increase your focus, and also the stress response is definitely immediately brought to a halt, which is amazing that you can do this in 5 minutes. So why don't we take a minute to do this practice together, if you could, with me. Let's just do 1 or 2. And if you hear it, I have my cat is here next to me, so let's take a breath in, and if you like, if you feel safe, I invite you to close your eyes while we do this. Or you can keep your eyes closed and with a soft gaze. So I invite you to do that now and take a deep breath in through your nose. And hold. And let's count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. Again, allowing the air to simply exit. 2, 3, and 4. Let's do one more of these. When you inhale through the nose and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, allow. Slow. 3, and 4. So you can do this as many as 8 times if you have the time and the capacity. But I found that even doing this 3 times can have a great impact. So observe how you feel right now. There is an immediate, almost quietude that comes in. And if anyone wants to put in the chat how they felt and what they experienced, I'll be very curious. But there's a sensation of almost a stop, if you will, a quietness. There is a silence that can come over when you do this, which is very, very interesting, right? Because you could do this while you're driving without your eyes closed, obviously, but you can do this type of breathing while you're driving, while you're in a meeting, while you're in line at the grocery store. You could be doing all the things while you're doing this type of breath. However, what happens is that you enter into this sensation, this perception of this beautiful, quiet space because everything slows down. The breath has the capacity to do that. And why is that? Remember what we said at the beginning, that the breath is happening in the now? Well, when you do this practice, you come into this sensation of silence, of quietude, and that is because the breath is bringing you to the now moment. Great. So I hope that was nice and you experienced that, the effects of it. The other types of breath that you could do, this other one is called straw breath. This one is very useful if you are actually experiencing pain or anxiety. Is also good if you're trying to sleep. This one is fun also to do with children because you can tell them that we are going to play pretend. And the pretend is that you're positioning your lips as if you are holding a straw so that the breath in the out has to go through that breath, through that straw. So how it works is you first inhale fully through the nose, and then in the out breath, again with ease, position your mouth as if you're holding a straw. What this does is that it really helps you if you're someone that struggles with letting the breath too fast, out too fast, and you're having trouble with that count of 4. Having the straw in your mouth allows you to really slow that in the exhale. So you do the same thing, you inhale in the out breath, very, very slowly through the straw, your lips barely open, allowing the breath to exit. That will increase over time your capacity to hold the breath and exhale in this way. So it will significantly increase your oxygen saturation. Obviously, it slows the way that you're breathing. It gets more oxygen to the lungs and immediately calms the nervous system in the stress response, obviously. So you kick off a signal response that we discussed, immediately changing not only your body response, but also the emotion that you may be experiencing. So when we are going through a difficult emotion, whether you feel stressed or sad, depressed or angry, when you introduce mindful breath, it brings you to the now moment. It brings awareness to the body response, and it gives you the power back. So it is empowering because you are taking back you yourself are mindfully taking care of how you're breathing. I was going to do a meditation with you all, but I think that we may not have time to do that. But I'd like for us to discuss, how was it? if you were doing the mindful breath that we just practiced together, I invite you to do some reflections and any impressions or observations. If you can share those in the chat, that would be great. So with all of these practices, the invitation is to observe your mind without judgment and from an objective distance, to observe the mind during different emotional states, and to become aware that everything is connected. The way you are thinking about a certain problem or situation will affect the way that your body responds. The way that you're breathing will change. That will trigger the stress response in the body, which in turn will trigger a hormonal exchange or change, which in turn will again affect how you're feeling. So bringing this awareness that everything is interconnected, but that you have this one tool that can help change everything. That's the power that I'd like to leave you with today. So here's my last question to you, right? So if now that we understand and we see how this is all connected and it's all happening, when we are sad, we breathe very, very slowly, or when we are anxious, we're breathing very, very fast. When we are elated and happy, we breathe open and expansive. If we know this, then doesn't it make sense to intentionally breathe in a way that will trick your brain and your body into thinking that you are completely elated and happy all the time? Yes. Yes, that is in fact what we are doing. We are in fact using the brain to manipulate the brain in the body response to think that you are elated and happy. It is a great thing. It is a wonderful thing. So that is the gift that the breath offers us to do. And again, any questions that you may have on this practice, I'll be very curious and happy to hear from you. So thank you so much. I really hope that was a very, very quick overview of how this works, but I'll be very happy to take your questions now through Amy, through the chat, or anywhere. And please be in touch with me. I am so happy to hear from you. If you have any questions or suggestions, please always feel free to get in touch with me.
Thank you so much, Carmen. We do have a question regarding these breathing exercises. We have a participant who found these great, very helpful. How often do you recommend that we practice them?
Daily. Daily. We breathe all the time. So it's built in. So we have the opportunity to integrate this into our life daily. So it could be that you do it in the morning when you are first starting your day. It changes your experience of your day drastically. If you take 5 minutes to say, I am doing this breath for myself, 5 minutes changes how you see the whole day, right? It's like having a gratitude practice where you start off the day pointing out everything that you love about or that you're grateful for. It's the same thing. If you do this at the beginning of the day, it drastically changes not only your experience in the physical and the emotional state, but also your mind and your perception of everything that you encounter. When you do this, every problem has a solution, because it gives you an expanded perception. So it's very, very key. So to answer your question, I would do it at least twice a day. Do it in the morning if you're only doing it once. If you do it later in the day, you want to do it before bed, it will help you sleep. You'll have a wonderful, restful sleep And again, solution and problem thinking in your sleep, with that deep sense of sleep.
And are there any online resources one to go to learn more about them, to help guide them through them?
Yeah, so someone also pointed out that the MGH Benson Henry Institute has on their website some breath work exercises that are available to all of us that we can avail. Also, the Employee Assistance Program has great resources on their website. They have mini meditations and also links to external third-party providers of this. I believe that we have some sort of institutional agreement with Calm and I forget what other provider. But again, we have so many resources. So those are at least two that I'd like to point everyone to. The Benson Henry Institute and the EAP has a lot of mindfulness resources. And perhaps we can send those links through the community if you like.
I'd be happy to. I'm gonna try to find them while we're here to include them in the chat, but otherwise feel free to email the Blum Center at pflc@partners.org, and we'd be happy to share those with you.
Yes, and something else that just occurred to me is something I've been thinking about for a little while, and that is, would it be helpful and would anyone be interested in joining a community where we meet and we breathe regularly? I am actually part of a group that conducts group meditations every Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. and it's through the MGH Center for Well-Being. This is open to all staff, definitely. And it's something that we can also send over to you a link so that you can sign up to be part of that community. Other than that, for a broader community, I have been thinking about holding a similar forum where we meet patients, families, and staff, and we do the same, and we just practice our breath and our meditation. So if there is any interest in that, I'll be happy to also start a community for a supported, guided breath work practice. So if you're interested in that, please let us know, and we'll think about incorporating that into the series. Thank you, Amy, for providing those links. So if you are on the call, in the chat, Amy is putting in all of these resources that we are mentioning right now. They should be pretty easy to navigate, but if you have any trouble, let us know. In those community groups that I mentioned, one is already established. We can send those links to you later. And if you'd like to be part of a community that meets regularly to practice the breath work and meditations, then we will be providing some more information about that in the future. Oh, Deborah says that would be great. Yes, I think it is greatly needed. I often I'm asked where people can go. It's because, you know, some people may find it useful and helpful to follow an app or a video, but others find the comfort of doing so live with a group and being guided a lot more helpful. And quite frankly, the human connection definitely has a big part of it. So I would be happy to hold that forum, and perhaps we do it through the center here. I think that would be fantastic.
For anyone who is interested, again, feel free to email the Blum Center at PFLC. We'd be happy to take down your email, contact information. So if we have any resources or upcoming events planned, we'd be happy to share that with you. And I'll enter that in the chat again to our email address. I'm also going to include the website to the Blum Center. That way you can also view the recording of today's session as well as any other past well-being sessions that we've held. Feel free to visit us online. And then within there's a section, past Blum Center programs, where it takes you to our YouTube playlist, and you can view all of our past recordings.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here through the duration of this discussion. And thank you for your participation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating in your observance, observing your mind, observing the breath, and being open to all of these new, perhaps new concepts to you. And I invite you to continue observing the breath with a completely new perspective now that we've learned how they affect your emotions and vice versa.
Thank you, Carmen, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.